Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 30-Day English Listening Challenge. Today we're talking about The Lion King, one of the most famous animated movies ever made. Even though many people first watched it as children, it's a story that adults love too. It has unforgettable characters, beautiful music, and an emotional story about family, courage, and finding your place in the world.
I completely agree. Every time I watch this movie, I notice something new. At first, it looks like a simple adventure about animals, but it's much deeper than that. The story teaches us about responsibility, friendship, loss, and growing up. That's why it has remained popular for so many years.
The movie begins with one of the most iconic scenes in animation. Animals from all over the Pride Lands gather to celebrate the birth of Simba, the future king. Everyone is excited because Simba is the son of King Mufasa. The music, the sunrise, and the beautiful landscape make this opening unforgettable. It immediately makes you feel that something important is happening.
Mufasa is one of my favorite characters. He is wise, calm, and strong, but he's also a loving father. He doesn't simply tell Simba what to do. Instead, he explains why being king means caring for everyone, not just having power. I think that's an important lesson for both children and adults.
Simba is curious and full of energy. Like many children, he wants to grow up as quickly as possible. Sometimes he doesn't listen to advice because he believes he already knows everything. I think many people can relate to that feeling. We've all wanted more freedom before we were ready for it.
Then we meet Scar, Mufasa's brother. From the very beginning, it's clear that he isn't happy. Scar believes the throne should belong to him instead of Simba. He's intelligent and patient, but he also hides his true intentions. He doesn't use strength like Mufasa. Instead, he tries to manipulate everyone around him.
Scar is such an interesting villain because he rarely loses his temper. He speaks calmly and chooses his words very carefully. That makes him even more dangerous. While Simba trusts other people icily, Scar is always thinking several steps ahead. Watching their relationship develop is both fascinating and heartbreaking.
Another important moment is when Mufasa explains the circle of life. He tells Simba that every living thing is connected, and that a good king respects nature and protects his kingdom. I love this conversation because it's simple enough for children to understand, but it also has a deeper meaning for adults.
My favorite early scene is when Mufasa takes Simba to the top of Pride Rock. He tells him that everything the light touches is their kingdom. Simba looks across the enormous landscape with excitement and dreams about becoming king one day. At that moment, he doesn't yet understand how much responsibility comes with that dream.
Of course, Simba doesn't always follow the rules. Scar convinces him to visit the elephant graveyard, even though Mufasa has told him never to go there. Simba thinks he's proving how brave he is, but he quickly discovers that bravery and being careless are not the same thing.
Luckily, Simba isn't alone. His best friend Nala goes with him because she's just as adventurous. I really enjoy their friendship because they support each other and have fun together. They laugh, explore, and sometimes get into trouble, just like many childhood friends do.
When they arrive at the elephant graveyard, they suddenly find themselves surrounded by hungry hyenas. The situation becomes dangerous very quickly, and Simba realizes that this adventure is much more serious than he expected. The hyenas are stronger than the young lions, and escaping seems almost impossible.
Fortunately, Mufasa arrives just in time to rescue Simba and Nala after they return home. Mufasa doesn't simply punish his son. Instead, he has an honest conversation with him. He explains that even kings feel afraid sometimes. Real courage isn't about never being scared. It's about doing the right thing even when you're afraid. I think that's one of the most memorable lessons in the entire movie.
As the story continues, Scar quietly begins putting the final pieces of his dangerous plan into place. Simba has no idea that his biggest challenge is still waiting for him, and everything in his life is about to change forever.
Scar's terrible plan finally begins to work. He tricks Simba into going into a narrow canyon and tells him to wait there because he says Mufasa has a surprise for him. Simba has no idea that Scar is lying. He waits excitedly, thinking his father is preparing something special. At the same time, Scar secretly tells the hyenas to start a massive wildebeest stampede. It's one of the most intense scenes in the entire movie because audience knows the danger, but Simba doesn't.
When Mufasa hears that Simba is trapped, he doesn't hesitate for a second. He runs as fast as he can into the canyon, jumping through hundreds of frightened wildebeests. The animation in this scene is incredible, and you can feel how desperate Mufasa is to save his son. He finally reaches Simba and pushes him to safety. It's a heroic moment that shows exactly what kind of father Mufasa is.
Then comes the saddest moment in the movie. Mufasa climbs toward the top of the cliff and asks Scar for help. For a second, it looks like everything will be fine. But instead of saving his brother, Scar throws him back into the stampede. Mufasa falls, and Simba watches the tragedy without understanding what has just happened. It's an emotional scene that many people remember for the rest of their lives.
What makes it even more heartbreaking is what Scar does next. Instead of telling Simba the truth, he convinces the young lion that everything is his fault. Simba is shocked, frightened, and full of guilt. He's only a cub, so he believes Scar's cruel words. Scar tells him to run away and never come back. At the same time, he secretly orders the hyenas to follow Simba and make sure he never returns.
Luckily, Simba escapes into the desert. He's exhausted, thirsty, and completely alone. Just when he thinks he can't go any farther, he meets Timon and Pumbaa. They are very different from the lions we've seen so far. Timon is funny and talks a lot, while Pumbaa is kind, gentle, and always ready to help. They rescue Simba and become his new family.
I think Timon and Pumbaa bring the perfect balance to the story. After such emotional scenes, they make everyone laugh. They teach Simba their famous philosophy, Hakuna Matata. According to them, it means living without worrying about the past. Simba enjoys his new life, grows into an adult lion, and tries to forget everything that happened in the Pride Lands. For a while, it seems like he's finally happy again.
Everything changes when Simba unexpectedly meets Nala. She can hardly believe that he's still alive. Nala tells him that the Pride Lands have become dark and empty under Scar's rule. There is almost no food, and the animals are suffering every day. She begs Simba to return home and become the king he was always meant to be. At first, Simba refuses because he still believes the tragedy was his fault.
Soon afterward, Simba has a powerful conversation with Rafiki, the wise old mandrill. Rafiki helps him understand that he can't spend his whole life running away from the past. Then Simba has a vision of Mufasa, who reminds his son that he is the true king and must remember who he really is. That moment gives Simba the courage to return home and face his fears.
The final battle is both exciting and emotional. Simba finally stands up to Scar and learns the truth about what really happened to Mufasa. Scar admits that he was responsible for everything. The fight between them takes place on Pride Rock while fire surrounds the kingdom. In the end, Scar loses his power and peace finally returns to the Pride Lands.
The movie ends on a hopeful note. Simba becomes the new king, the land begins to recover, and the circle of life continues. We see a new lion cub presented on Pride Rock, just as Simba was at the beginning of the story. It's a beautiful ending that reminds us that life goes on, and every new generation has the chance to make the world better.
For me, The Lion King is much more than an animated movie. It's a story about family, responsibility, forgiveness, and finding the courage to become the person you're meant to be. Every time I watch it, I discover another important lesson hidden inside the story.
I couldn't agree more. Whether you watch it as a child or as an adult, The Lion King always has something meaningful to teach. That's why it has remained one of Disney's greatest classics and continues to inspire millions of people around the world.
Thank you so much for listening today. We hope you enjoyed this conversation and learned some new English expressions along the way.
We'll see you in the next episode of the 30-Day English Listening Challenge. Bye, everyone.